Well,
Oh,
good morning, everyone, on this, afternoon, even on this very hot and sweaty day. I hope you've got a nice ice cream to come along with us. Stuart's got his ready. He does not showing it on the camera. Um, so we're going to be talking about embodied AI. What's that, I hear you ask? Oh, Stuart.
what's that, Derek?
Well, as we've just been talking about this, I'll explain very briefly, and then anybody who's listening in can add their, I was going to say, two pennyworth, but whatever. But we've had most people know think of AI as Chat GPT, Gemini, and all of that sort of stuff. But we have got AI embodied and in fact embedded in robots, in robotics. We have had robotics for a while, but AI is now there, and AI is there in order to learn, so it can learn from us and the things it does, so it can get cleverer and cleverer and cleverer all the while. I think that says it nicely. So the question is it going to take jobs? And what can we do about it? And what does the landscape look like?
So Derek, let's start with what embodied AI isn't. AI, most people think of as ChatGPT. This is not what we're talking about, is it? We're not talking
No.
about something doing a blog post for you. What we're talking about is something learning how a job is done and then being able to replicate or do that in a similar way in a slightly different situation. So a robot can be taught to pick up a block so long as the block is exactly the same size, the same dimensions, the same
Yeah.
color. It's when you put a different block in front of it, the robot gets very confused because it's not been taught that shape and that color. But it's embodied AI that allows that robot to recognize that's still a block, even though it's now a different color, different shape,
Yeah.
well, not different shape, but different dimensions. And that allows it to continue being a useful tool. And I'm going to use the words useful tool a lot because one of the things I think we fear is that somehow AI is going to replace doing what humans did. And some embodied AI systems are capable of doing that. But the fact of the matter is, and this is the example I keep using, Excel, when it was first introduced, or 123, it was the 123 program that was the first spreadsheet out there on the market. When somebody sort of looked at that, they said this will replace accountants. Well, I know that they have not been replaced because mine keeps contacting me and wanting more money out of me. So they've not gone away. What they've done is they've moved into a different way of doing their job. They're no longer the people that write down and calculate the addition at the bottom of the column. They're now thinking about the cleverness. They're now thinking about things which are more interesting for human beings because AI is not about, although we use the word intelligence, they are not intelligent systems. They are not able to do the creative thinking that human beings do.
Yeah, and it's not just the thinking, as you mentioned, with the dexterity and the size of boxes. It's the creative doing, and
Agreed.
not just the boxes. I mean, if you teach a robot how to pick up a box, and then you put a ball in front of it, what does it do? Um, who knows? So that's the interesting part of it. But they learn by doing is the thing. Well, or they could learn by listening to us, but primarily they I'm not much good at picking up balls, but they can learn by doing. And,
so,
and
so what does that mean in terms of I mean, today these systems are still quite. They're not advanced. They're not something which is going to replace a human being today. But is this something which is coming in 5, 10, 15, or 100 years?
well, I'm just looking at some notes I've got about how about the amount of money that's being invested, and it's quite phenomenal. So yeah, between 2022 and 24, the amount of money invested was over $1 billion a year in this particular field. So there's huge amounts of investment, but it hasn't got as far as you'd think. And one of the reasons is we're just too damn not clever. We're just too damn good, really. I mean, if you think what's involved in picking up a box, it's by and large just brute force. But what's involved in picking up a ball or a dodecahedron or something like that is getting a bit more clever. You've got to recognise it. You've got to grip it with your fingers. There's an awful lot in dexterity, and that's one of the things that it's going to be a long time before
Yeah, this is where we get into the fact that one of the problems we've got here is that AI systems are really still not very good at using this sort of neural network. Is it? We've still got parallel processing. We still don't have the sort of neural processes that you've got within a human brain, which is multiple systems effectively collaborating together. And that's the other thing, which I think embedded AI will eventually start to learn to understand. We're now seeing some quite interesting things about. If you've seen fireworks recently, a lot of the time these are now being replaced with drone systems, drones that go up and have lights on them and produce the pretty pictures in the sky, and they can be quite effective. And those are a lot of drones that are effectively independent, but they want to communicate with each other to say, am I in the right spot? Do I now need to shine my red light? Now, they're still fairly simple, but when you look at human beings walking along a street, that is a very complex environment that no computer can yet really understand. We don't understand the rules, and those rules are not written. They're somehow we've learned them by being a child and growing up and learning how to walk down a street. So it's those sort of multiple agents addressing the challenges together, learning how to communicate in a common language or a common way, which will allow these systems to start collaborating and to start being useful rather than just independent actors.
I think robots would actually make a better job of walking down the pavement. To be honest, I mean, if you sort of programs them up to operate on the sort of swallow-like model, whereby they just keep a distance from the one next to them, and they don't really know where they're going, but. That would be quite useful because we just walk down the pavement and swear at people.
I spent Monday at Wimbledon, and if you've ever crammed 40,000 people into a tiny little area like that, you'll realise that human beings can actually be still relatively, well, I say relatively, because there were a bunch of people there that maybe hadn't learned it can be relatively complex and learn how to work together even when they don't know each other.
Yeah. The other thing that's quite interesting, I just noticed another thing I made a note of. Do you remember that recent half marathon in Beijing, where I think they got 20 of those humanoid robots?
Oh yes, I did see that.
Yeah, and I can't. What was the time? The times. Yeah, the fastest robot was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yes,
which was way behind, and that's sort of interesting. I imagine if you could supply them with enough power, they could keep going for a long time. But they didn't quite do the business, and that's another issue. These things are they're not tethered to big bits of cable in the wall. These things have to have batteries and maybe solar power, who knows, and in order to be autonomous, and that raises yet another issue.
I really do look forward actually to the day when you can put an apple in at the top of one of them and it powers it for a while, and then out at the bottom comes the waste matter, or would that be a human being? I'm not sure, but either which way, I think that the secret to these are that we look at them as something in the way that we were just talking about. When it comes to something which is going to be an augmentation to our job, not a threat and a replacement. And that takes me on to the point that I think we were talking about before, which is, businesses should be gearing up for this. That we don't spend nearly enough time as business owners training the people that we have working for us to do jobs for us. We assume somehow that they'll just get it. We throw them in at the deep end and we just hope that they learn by osmosis. one of the great ways that you can actually enhance your skills of the people that work for you is to give them the sort of AI skills they need. How should they be prompting an AI to work? How should they be understanding how an AI can be an augmentation to their job, not a replacement for them? Because too often they will resist the change if they think it's a threat. And if you can take away the idea of the threat, they will actually embrace it, work with it.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's the same, but if I had a relatively manual job, I think I would welcome the chance of giving it to a robot and effectively playing with what looks at first glance like a giant toy. Yeah, that could be. I think that could be fun, but they're not coming anytime soon, because another thing I hadn't actually thought about was the components that go into these things. At the moment, it's they're being built by people like Boston Dynamics and others with effectively with bespoke components, and a bit like cars. I think in order for manufacturing to really ramp up, we're going to have a lot of common components, so that someone somewhere can be making all the little screws and connectors and all sorts that go into these things, and that will obviously bring the price down. But that is an issue, and I never really thought about that. But you think of the car industry. Ford don't make everything that goes into their car. They buy in components from, I don't know who the manufacturers are these days.
Oh,
but
everybody.
Yeah, they buy in headlamps and screws and connectors, and even airbags and all of that sort of stuff. So all of that's yet got to happen. So yeah.
Where does that leave us, Derek? What are we saying that our opinion is on this matter? Are we saying, well, whether we like it or not, these systems are coming, whether you want to resist them or not, you will have one of these embedded AIs alongside you in your job, whether it be manual or not, in the near future. You prepare yourself, I think, by getting ready, not by ignoring it, but by actually embracing it, learning about how you can continue to use it as a tool in the way that you could use Excel. Go out, learn as much as you can about how you sort of instruct. I mean, I've been trying to sort of work this through with somebody recently who is just trying to learn how to use the simple AIs out there at the moment, like ChatGPT. And the secret is how to write the prompt. You don't just say, write me a blog post. You actually have to tell it the context. Write me a blog post as if you were the marketing manager of this business and your target audience is this. Those things give you the skills to then make this your tool and make yourself the master. And if you don't do that, you end up literally throwing away your expertise that you've built up and you continue to use.
Which is half of the issue that I mentioned earlier, which was, what should companies be doing about this?
Yeah.
Some people might expect the answer, spend billions on robots. Well, no, that's not the answer, because as we mentioned, at the moment, these things are going to take a little while to come on stream. There's a shortage of components, a shortage of training. So the all singing, all dancing bot is not going to be here for a while. So what should employers be doing? Well, there's two things they could be doing. You just mentioned one of the things, which is getting employees ready to interact with these things when they do appear. Also, if we upskill our workforce now, it's going to be a lot cheaper than a huge investment in these sort of embodied AI systems, these robots. And we simply won't need quite as many of them. We'll still need them. They'll still be there. We won't need quite as many, and we'll have a more skilled workforce. But the skilling of the workforce is something we can do now before all this stuff appears, I think.
And where's the direction of travel? What should we be thinking that the adaptive embodied AI is going to be in terms of the first things that we see in the marketplace so that we can get ready for it?
Well, we've sort of seen it's not fully embodied AI, but people are very aware, for instance, of the big sort of warehouses run by Amazon and Ocado. So those are pretty repetitive tasks, and but those could become a bit more. A comment from Simon. Those could become less structured, and that's one of the things. If you don't have something that runs on rails all the time and is going to fixed locations all the time, that is where these things could come into their own, because the Amazon and Ocado have spent a huge amount of money in structuring their operation to be automated. Well, these things are going to allow people to automate operations that haven't been specifically designed in that way. I mean, I worked for a while in a car parts distribution, I suppose, warehouse, you would call it, in Swindon, and that we walked around and we picked things off of shelves. Well, those sorts of things are a bit more doable if you taught the bot to wander around and it was capable of picking up some strange things rather than just carefully manufactured packages. It could work in that environment without anybody redesigning the warehouse.
So I think Simon's got a point. We at this point need something, whether it be a prototype or something like that, in order to be able to get people ready and train them. We have to understand the direction of travel so that we can actually,
I think
otherwise what we're doing is we're training without good purpose.
Yeah, I think well, Simon didn't misunderstand. I may be misrepresented, but one of the things that I meant regarding upskilling staff is we can upskill staff to do some of the jobs that the robots would be doing because the robots just aren't going to be there. So we can upskill our staff, but once we get the bots, they can be doing some of the jobs that our staff could have.
So this means thinking about the jobs that you would like them to do.
Indeed.
When the bot or the robot arrives before, and getting them to the stage where they can easily do that. It's effective like a succession plan then. You're thinking about the next step they're going to take and do a succession plan for when the person is going to be
succession planning, strategy, whatever you like to call it. But a plan to suck this technology into your business, and how you're going to effectively mesh that with the staff that you've currently got.
So this is an addition to what we normally do in business development. We look around and say, what's the next big thing? Where do I need to get people? What do they need to be doing? What skills do I need them to have so that we can move them into that position when I'm ready for them?
Yeah. So the human resources becomes human and robotic resources, and the skill set gets enhanced as well.
I am looking forward to the first professional that I have to speak to that has human and robotic resources in their title. I've never liked the word human resources anyway, but it's going to make even less sense if they're human and robotic and they're put in the same title.
Yeah, I quite like the idea. You can mess about with that title, something terrible.
I'm gonna be messing about with it now. I'm gonna put some ideas down to see whether I can get anybody to take me on as one of them.
Yeah, and of course, when things go really badly wrong, they can be botic resources.
Oh gosh.
So, yeah. So yes, so Simon's point, I think you're going to upskill staff at the same time. It's a bit like taking on, I don't know, drills or lathes in a manufacturing operation. Your staff get upskilled at the same time these things appear. You know what they've got to do, but not quite how to do it. So yeah.
Well, it's worth them starting down the road now of doing the usual succession plan.
Indeed.
Thinking about the more thinking skills that your staff need in order to take on roles when a bot does something more manual, or when a bot does something more boring, or a bot does something more repetitive, and you need the people to do the thinking rather than the doing.
Yeah, I mean the bot could be, say, it could be doing something really boring, or it could be doing something really heavy. Some of these things are incredibly strong.
Yeah.
It can be doing something. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we already have. I mean, think of some of the bots in the car plants, the ones that weld, the ones that spray. Imagine if 10 years down the line, you're not going to say, "Oh, I've got a new Mini here. I've got to program the welds in." It's going to look at it and say, "That's a Mini. I know how to do that," and off it will go.
Yeah.
So
you just need an army of human beings then to program the robots that will maintain the robots that are doing the spraying.
Indeed. So in fact, that could be a very interesting departure in that your employees in your car plant may know very little about cars and an awful lot about robots. So,
And with that cheerful thought, we've reached about 20 odd minutes.
Yeah, well, I hopefully, if anybody other than Simon's been listening, we'll
I'll let you know.
we will have at least jogged their memory, given them something to think about. And there we have it. So we'll be back in a month's time with something completely I don't know, off the wall, unembodied. And hopefully,
what date's that one then, Derek?
Pardon?
What date is that one?
Oh, I don't know. Second Friday of the month.
Derek, I thought you'd know. I thought you'd have it at your fingertips. You'd have planned it all out. You'd be thinking about it already.
Well, no,
You'd already know what we're going to talk about.
You're looking. So what date is it then?
I am looking. You're absolutely right. I am looking, and the second Friday of August is actually it's the 8th. Yeah, Friday is the 1st, so it's the 8th.
The 8th of August. Okay, well, cool. We shall be back on the 8th of August then. With something
until then,
incredibly exciting. So until then, goodbye, everybody.